Our show, New Kids on the Block, usually features young people, student leaders, and new ideas. Well, today's episode has that, but also features a very special guest, General HS Panag, who is making his TV debut on the show. Now, for those of you who don't know who he is a decorated army officer who has served as GOC in charge of Northern Command, serving for years in Kashmir and 4 decades of service, known for ending corruption. But a highly regarded officer was attacked. He was attacked on Twitter recently. For what? For this tweet. Let me just read out to you what he said. He said that the image of the stone pelter tied in front of a jeep as a human shield will forever haunt the Indian Army and the nation. Whatever the provocation, the Indian Armed Forces cannot take recourse to illegal acts. I endorse this view. A standard response when the state starts looking like a mirror image of the terrorists, it spells ominous portents. That's what he said. And let me just tell you what he got in response. When he tweeted that out, in response, he got Ashok Pandit said, "Sir, I wish the soldiers who were kicked, beaten, humiliated on the streets of Kashmir would have been you. And then we would have seen your reaction." Abhijit, the noted Bollywood singer, reacted by saying, "More, you are a Pak supporter. Wish you were kicked, beaten and humiliated on the streets of Kashmir and then would have seen your reaction." And of course, other people then went on to call him an anti-national as well. Well, General Panag is now in studio to talk about why he said what he said. And we're also happy that he's agreed to take questions and give us insight about what's happening, according to him, in the valley. Our show is, of course, about student leaders, so I'm very happy that we have student leaders from different parties. We have Shaila Rashid, who represents Left Student Organization. Shaila is, of course, also from Kashmir. We have Anima Sankar, who's from ABVP. And we have Akshay Lakra, who is from NSUI, or the Congress's Student Union Wing. So first of all, of course, those tweets that you sent out, why did you say what you said?
Well, the Indian Army has been involved in counterinsurgency campaigns from 1956. From Nagaland, it went on to Mizoram, to Tripura, to Manipur, to Punjab, and then to Jammu and Kashmir, with effect from December or end of 1989. We have been the most successful army in the world in fighting an insurgency. We have managed to contain the insurgencies everywhere. Militaries never find solutions to insurgencies. Militaries contain the insurgencies. The solution is always political. And why we succeeded and why the United States failed in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, even Russia failed in Afghanistan, and so many other countries have failed within their own countries. They're fighting internal insurgencies, is because we followed the law of the land while conducting the insurgency. Our operations were always people-friendly. We focused on the terrorists, we focused on the militants or insurgents, as various times they have been called, but our operations remained people-friendly. Of course, there we had the Armed Forces Special Powers Act to defend us in case we are charged for any offense and gives us certain special powers. But even with the Armed Forces Special Powers Act in the backdrop, we are supposed to function as per the law of the land. In fact, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act itself is a law of the land. It's been enacted by the Parliament in 1956. So we have been conducting a model counterinsurgency campaign in where we have deliberately never violated human rights as a policy. In my 40 years of service as an officer in the Army, I have never ever received an unlawful command, and I have never given an unlawful command. And violation of human rights is an unlawful command. Yes, there have been aberrations, especially in the initial stages, in Jammu and Kashmir as also in the northeast. But the army rules, regulations are absolute. We take action, and in Jammu and Kashmir, 100 to 150 court-martials have taken place. The latest was in 2010, for the 2010 Machil incident, where in 2014, I think towards the end of 2014, the commanding officer and 5 other soldiers, officers and soldiers, were given 10 years to life sentence for the crime that they committed of a fake encounter. So when you see an image of this kind, where an innocent civilian is put on the bonnet of a jeep and tied up and virtually as a human shield, it's very disturbing. And this image is a defining image, as defining as the images you see of the Vietnam War. And let me give you 1 or 2 images of the Vietnam War and why they were defining. When you see Vietnam War on the internet, you will see these images. One was a napalm attack, everything burning, and there are children running.
Yeah.
And because of the napalm, which burns everything, one young child is stark naked and her hands are flayed like this and she's running. A telling image, a very moving image. I saw it first when I was still under training in the National Defense Academy. There's another image of one of the generals of Vietnam shooting a Viet Cong on the streets of Saigon with a pistol like this. Actually, there were 3 images. The first, he points the pistol. Second, he shoots. And third, the body dropping down. But the image, that is the one which is pointing. Then there's the image of a woman carrying her husband wrapped up in a polythene. Something that you see nowadays in parts of India also, just like that, and she's wailing.
So you're saying this will become like that?
No, I'm not saying. These are called defining images. Similarly, this image defines, though incorrectly, Indian Army has never functioned like this. We are a model army as far as insurgency is concerned. But this image will become a defining image. It'll leave an impact on the conscience of the nation and conscience of even the international community, that everybody will think this is the Indian Army.
So, sir, I just wanted to tell you that very soon after that, NDTV started reporting this, but we also had statements, briefings from sources in the army and the forces giving context to it. And many people, for these people out there, and sir, I'm not an expert I don't report on defense, I'm a general reporter, so please forgive me if I don't know the protocols. So, for everybody out there, they pointed out, the briefing that they gave was, look, first of all, there was, on everybody's mind, this was playing out. The other video of the Jawans getting heckled in the valley, that was playing on people's mind. Then they said that kind of heckling or that kind of situation, a mob was there, and this was done, this was on the spot reaction of an officer or a soldier, and he did, it may not be the most ethical, he did what he had to do to avoid bloodshed. That's the explanation that was given.
Fair enough.
Do you accept that?
Yeah, I'll give you the answer for that. Firstly, to date, the Indian Army has not officially given any statement. No official statement, statement has been given by the Indian Army as to what happened. Indian Army has only ordered a court of inquiry, which they said was ordered on the 15th, and 2 days after the FIR was lodged. And no official statement has been given. What has been reported is a version of events which have taken place there, and everybody has said that this has been reported, or reliable sources and so on. This is not the official version put out by the army, which will only come out probably after the investigations. There's another version floating around, and the other version is the person has himself been interviewed.
The weaver.
Dar has been interviewed, and he has said that there was no such thing, that he was traveling from place A to place B, where he was picked up and tied up. So this version is also there. Now let us analyze the 2 versions. and what should have been the response of the forces to this. When this incident takes place, let's go by the officer's version, or the version that's floating around, that there was a lot of people inside a room and they were surrounded by a mob of 900. And consequently, they asked for help, and a QRT, quick reaction team of the army, came, led by Major Gogai of the 53 Rashtriya Rifle Battalion. He, seeing the danger to the people and how to take them out, he took a hostage and put him on the jeep, tied him up, and then safely went away. Now, the video as such doesn't show any of this. What the video shows is this person is tied on the bonnet of the jeep, and jeeps are moving along merrily, and they see a passing from various localities. No crowd is seen anywhere in the video. There is no stone pelting going on. In fact, people are watching. Those one or two bystanders are watching, and there's something being played on loudspeakers. We're just going by the video. We do not know actually what happened. Now, if I was the Northern Army commander, GOC in C, if this had happened, whatever be the version, if this had happened, since it's unusual, never since 1947 have we tied a man on a jeep in an insurgency environment and paraded him like this. Never, for whatever reasons. It's the first time.
So it's the first one that has come out.
Well, I won't say that it has happened otherwise. Okay, I would say it has never happened, to the best of my knowledge. Now, this information comes to me. It would have reached me within half an hour that this is what has happened. And I would have been a very worried man. This rebels against the image of the Indian Army. This is what the Indian Army is not. Anyway, I would have said that immediately. I said that, let's say the officer's version was also reached me, and I found that to be correct. I would have taken a little time, but a statement would have been given by me as GOC in Northern Command on my behalf that this sort of an incident has taken place in area so and so. There was lives threatened, and the officer on the spot took a on-the-spot decision on the spur of the moment to save lives, innocent lives, which meant not only the life of the hostages which was held by the crowd supposedly, and the crowd itself, because otherwise you'll have to fire on the crowd, and a crowd of 900. I would have also said that this is an illegal action. It is not the tactics of the Indian Army, and we shall never repeat it again. And we'll investigate the matter, and if deemed necessary, we'll take action against this violation. Right? So just say that much, and then say investigation is on. Let's go by the civilians' version, that nothing of this sort has happened. Even then, I would have given a statement as soon as it came out.
Yeah.
I would have said that what has been reported is wrong, it is illegal, Indian Army doesn't follow these tactics. We'll investigate the matter, and action will be taken against the officer concerned. And as an immediate measure, we have taken the officer off the operations, and he's under investigations. And so are the soldiers who were with him. I would have made this statement suo motu, and it would have been made on 9th evening.
Yes.
Now, what happened actually? That the incident blew up when Umar Abdullah first tweeted sometimes in morning of 14th. And then I took up saw that image, and I tweeted. I mean, then of course it was all over the Twitter by then. So it happened it came out, and no official statement even to date, neither from the army nor from the government.
Okay, sir, that actually gives a lot of perspective, because you're saying, sir's talking from a position who was in charge of that area, familiar with the problems and how fragile it is. Shaila, your comments and any questions to sir?
First comment, first of all, I would like to congratulate General Panag for bringing the discussion back to human rights and human dignity. Although I do maintain that Kashmir is not just a human rights problem, it is a political problem, and things like, initiating a dialogue and all of that, that has to come from the political class. Now, it's rather I mean, it's rather a rhetorical question, which you know, I mean, I don't expect anyone to do this. But as a Kashmiri, what I think when I see this is, you know, like 1 month back, we were at Ramjas College and ABVP was pelting stones, right? We didn't see an ABVP guy tied to the front of a police jeep. Maybe that would have solved the problem. And I'm saying this as a rhetorical point. I mean, I don't really mean that an ABVP guy should be tied to a police jeep. But this is the dual treatment. This is, and this guy is not even a, I mean, when Sir put out the tweet, he said that he was a stone pelter. This guy is not even a stone pelter. He had gone out to vote, he says. And then it was, you know, this is, now this image and this, you know, this incident, although this is the, you know, like in terms of bloodshed, I mean, it's not a fake encounter, it's not a rape, it's not a disappearance, the, you know, the usual human rights abuses that occur. But, you know, it's very symbolic of the situation of Kashmir, that even the pro-India voices, and when I say pro-India voices, I mean people like Sheikh Abdullah. Even those voices since 53 have been curtailed. And that is the crux of the Kashmir issue, that, you know, the civilian governments don't talk to people. They treat the people as second-class citizens in what they say is their own country. And then, you know, go on to say, oh, there's stone pelting. There's stone pelting because you're not talking to the people.
And if you read General Panag's views, one of the things that he first talks about, actually, which is incidentally why it's so relevant, his interview is relevant on a show, he says that even if you're, he says, don't talk to separatists, but he says, what you must do is talk to student leaders. So I thought I would mention that. He says that. He talks to. So I wanted to ask you, just taking on for that, and so I'll let you respond. Anima, you heard what Sheila said, but I wanted to ask you, one of the first people, you heard what Sir said. And for people who are watching from outside as observers like us, it seemed very significant what General Panag, it may be his view, it may be a subjective view, but from someone who knows the area, someone who served there, and, you know, a decorated officer, it, you know, it seemed to be a perspective which was wise. So when somebody who's associated with the government, Ashok Pandit is associated with CBFC, when he abuses an officer, a retired officer, when he abuses, when at a time when everyone talks about respecting the soldier, when everyone talks about that, do you condone or do you condemn what Ashok Pandit and these other people who have attacked General Panag? I'm speaking for the ABVP.
Yes, ABVP's stand is very clear that you should always watch your words. There should be debate, discussion, certainly, like Sir has his own version, I might believe something else, audience here might believe something else. But at the same time, you should watch your words. And when I belong to an organization which hails Indian Army, and we applaud, and even this young major who took this step, absolutely, I would not say that was the best thing to do, rather it was a human rights violation, certainly. But I would believe that when there were just 50 people turned out to vote there, and there were 10 army officers to, you know, kind of patrol that area, and there are around 1,000 people to attack.
Yes.
Maybe, you know, the situation is so tense in Jammu and Kashmir, so volatile all the time. Maybe, I mean, our army is trained to combat in the best resources that is available. He could have gone ahead and incessantly just opened fire, and it would have caused a lot of casualties, and human rights issues would have been violated even in the worst possible case. So I think we should not kind of, this happened without a precedent, certainly for army, for Indian Army. It should not be like, it should not be repeated, certainly. However, that point of time, maybe that's what he thought was right. Talking about like ABVP stand, we would always condone, condemn anything which is unparliamentary, which would hurt Indian Army sentiments or any individual sentiments also.
And I want to know.
Ask one small question to the ABVP, very limited question. I want to know that Tej Bahadur Yadav, when he raises the issues being faced by the army, he is branded by the right-wing supporters on Twitter. He's branded everything. I mean, you can just go through all the character assassination that happens. He was a drunkard. He was late on duty.
I don't want to digress into another thing.
No, just
I want to keep it because I want him to
let me just finish,
Sunita.
Yeah. Let me just finish. What I'm saying is that when Kashmiris complain about human rights abuses by the army, the right wing is the first one to get up and say, how can you say this about the army?
Akshay, yeah.
See, basically, insensitive trolling is part of the Achhe Din. Okay. We have to agree to it. First of all, it was Gurmeher. 1 month ago, this was the same studio we were discussing Gurmeher Kaur. Now, We are having a 3-star general who has been insensitively trolled and abused. So we have to agree to this is all part of the Achhe Din. And there is no shame on being declared as an anti-national, because I have been declared as an anti-national in my own university. And first of all, the army personnel, they don't have to prove their nationalism to anyone in this country. We are proud of them and they have served the nation to the highest level. Second thing, the double standard of the ABVP have been showed up, that they invite Amitabh Bhattacharya to the Delhi University and now they are condoning his statement over here. And this is the state of undeclared emergency in Jammu and Kashmir, where we are having 6% or 7% turnout in the by-poll election, which is worse in the 30 years.
Actually, I want to take off with that. So the fact that, you know, because you and everybody should go back and read what General Panag talks about, because he's dealt with so much of that, you know, he writes a blog as well. So, sir, you talk about optics and, you know, trust building measures and how the army should have the healing touch. I want to ask you, what is the message that goes out when a weaver would come out to vote when most people were staying at home and not voting? What is the message that is sent out when a voter, when there's only 7% turnout, is attacked like that, is treated like that? What is the message that goes out?
Well, I think neither the officer concerned or anybody else who was involved in this, I think they were not looking at this issue. Whatever version you take, okay, the version which the officer has put up, or which has been said reliable sources, they probably did not. They just caught the first man. They didn't know it was if it was inadvertent. No, if the other version is that there was no such thing, that means what that means was it's a standalone rogue action taken at a lower level, where they decided to teach the lesson to the local population by using this method. Okay, that's the other version. That's the people's version. Even they probably didn't know that he was a voter.
Yeah.
So it was just incidental. He was a poor man who's caught into it
Does
either
anyone
way.
have any questions? Yeah, you have a question. Can I just also ask him? Shaila, who wants to ask a question, Shaila gets trolled. I'm sure you also get trolled. The ABVP, everybody gets trolled, right? But sir, no one would expect the army, which is kind of sequestered and away from the real life, you know, civilians have a different life, that you are so used to getting respect. How do you deal with name calling? How do you deal with people telling you you don't know what you do?
Very relevant question. The thing is, firstly, I think people think that army officers or army people only know how to salute and fire. I think that's incorrect. I think Indian army officers are intellectually very well educated. Most of us are graduates first from the military academy. Then most of us do post-graduation. I'm a master's in military studies. Then a lot of our officers have done again, doctorates and all. So, and the military education system is very sound. So we are very well educated, not only about matters military, about international relations, about humanitarian law, about all the subjects. That's one. And then Indian Army was the first to introduce computers. So to think that Indian Army will not be active on social media, doesn't know about social media, is wrong. Because we introduced the first computers into India way back in 1968.
But how can you take such insubordination, sir?
I'll come back. Now, I have been on Twitter for last 8 years, and I have learned how to handle trolls. I have learned how to handle abusive people, and also how to make use of them.
Oh, wow!
I'll tell you how.
Yeah.
That I came on Twitter to educate the public about matters military, that most people are ill-informed. So let me give honest tweets, and I give assessment, I post international magazine articles and all, so we reform the Indian Army. I had 40,000 followers, 41,000, though as a fallout of this, it went up to 43,500.